This week on Know You're Wrong, it's all about Game of Thrones. We've got a lot of stuff to get into, and it's going to be so much fun. Stay with us. Welcome to Know You're Wrong. I'm Joey Skaggs. I'm joined with Michael Kolb and Colin Buckingham, or Rhodey as we call him. We are Big Kid Studios, of course. This week on the show, we are talking all about Game of Thrones. Well, first of all, this last episode I didn't think was too spectacular, but that could just be because we had such an amazing episode with the door and, hold the door and, tears and just emotions and that awesome fight scene that maybe nothing would have been cool with me this week.
It was a good episode to bring you back down because they left you in such a high emotional state at the end of Hold the Door. That what was this episode titled? Blood of My Blood?
Blood of My Blood, yes.
Blood of My Blood was it was like a palate cleanser. It was like a sorbet between.
A lot of good stuff happened, just not a lot I mean,
there was still a lot of cool stuff that happened, but I was just unimpressed for the most part. I mean, I love Sam, and I love him telling off his dad and all that stuff. But I was like, I'm just kind of bored. They kept going back to him. I'm like, okay, but.
I love Sam. I love Sam as a character. I love his story. I love what they did. I really enjoyed that whole
let's just start
interaction.
There, let's start with Sam. Sam and his lady Tally.
Gilly.
Sam Tally. Gilly. Yes. So they reach there with little Sam to his parents.
That kid could not smile anymore if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that kid was the happiest child I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was great. Whoever cast that baby is
I know. Who cast an ideal baby.
Yeah, that was great.
And we have one baby on Game of Thrones, and that's the baby. So they did a great job.
Yeah, they did a really good job
finding that baby. That was just, or they did a great job of just finding those moments that he was just happy and filming him in those moments.
Yeah. Well, another good casting choice they did, or at least obviously stuck out to me, was Sam's dad. He's the typical kind of British villain-esque. He was so. I feel like I've seen him before. I don't know if I've seen him in other stuff, but I feel like I'd recognize him. I just immediately when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's a bad guy.
I was saying I didn't recognize him from anything, but he did. He had that perfect look, that perfect attitude. Mm-hmm. The mom is so opposite from him that it's just she's such a great, loving character. You immediately are like, wow, his family's really nice, and then immediately into that dinner meal, you're just like, oh my god, I hate this guy.
The father reminds me of the high school quarterback that was the star of his team.
Oh, yeah,
and then he grows up and he wants his kids to be, the high school quarterback, and he gets a son that's just really intelligent.
Nerd.
Yeah, he's a science nerd, and he doesn't know how to relate.
And he's got that other douchier son that's White Walkers, those things don't exist.
Well, no, but see, the thing about the other guy is...
The son?
Yeah, is that I understood why he was like that. Because he wasn't just mean. Mm-hmm. He was just kind of, when you're raised being told something is a fairy tale, you just believe it's a fairy tale. And so when somebody's like, well, I met Santa Claus, you'd be like, yeah, right. But if you really did, it's not, he's just raised in a totally different environment.
Yeah, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, a whale was called a leviathan. And many people didn't believe they existed. That creature's too large to actually exist. It doesn't really exist. Now everybody knows, sperm whales are huge.
Yeah.
We know they exist. We have evidence of their existence, even if we have never seen
Here
them
be
personally.
monsters.
Yeah, here be monsters. And so they live in that world where they don't have the evidence that there's nobody taking pictures.
Right, and that's what I liked is he didn't seem condescending about it. It was more like, yeah, right. Yeah. It's like saying I ran into Bigfoot. It's like those don't exist.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Yeah, and he's not being condescending. It's just kind of you're almost like you're being funny and trying to help my brother seem like he's a stronger person. But he wasn't like his dad. His dad is just like, I hate you. You could never do anything to make me happy.
Terrible.
And he's just kind of brushed it off, which I thought was a great another character thing is that we know all this stuff, and these people that are in this world don't know all this stuff. And they did a really good job of doing that demographically. They don't know about this. They're sheltered. It's
I loved Heartsbane. Right,
Yeah.
I love that they showed Heartsbane. I love that Sam stole Heartsbane. it's like he feels like it's his birthright.
I think that was my most exciting moment was when they introduced that it was a Valerian steel sword.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, there's another one, and Sam's gonna get it.
Yeah, and Sam was very much, I actually will use this. I will put this to use. I have use for this. This is not an ornament anymore. It's time for a weapon like this.
Kill me another White Walker,
Right.
Daddy.
Yeah.
I'll show you who's a hunter. Yeah, so yes, I did like that too.
Those
I wanna
scenes were
move-
my favorite.
I want to move on from that, and probably to my second least favorite part, which was with Dany and the Dothraki, and her reveal.
Yeah.
That
like,
big monologue.
how-
You talking about the ending?
The ending.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen her preach in front of a bunch of people in Dothraki?
Yeah.
And just united people, and they're all just behind her. Like, you remember, it was like the season 3 finale when she, did like a little stage dive,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't do that off the dragon. She could have done that again. Like, I was like, I've seen this ending before.
They keep making it a larger scale.
Yeah.
And that's something like the first time was in that one specific horde, and then it was among all the people in this village, and now it's like all her warriors, and it's this vast army that she has now.
But I mean, didn't she already convince them?
Yeah,
to follow
like I
her?
feel like we've
Yeah.
already.
It felt kind of pointless.
It's like, oh yeah,
It's like,
by the way, I
you
have
did that when you were
dragons.
naked coming through
Yeah,
the fire.
they already-
Like,
you
we were
already
already
got
on like this. I mean, cool pep talk, but we already got you.
Yeah,
Like your
yeah.
dragon's
We
scary.
followed you. We already
Yeah.
followed you.
I'm telling you, it was straight up out of Avatar. James Cameron directed this episode.
Yeah, dude.
He was like, I gotta
Coming
promote
down,
Avatar. This is the best way to do it because that second one's coming up soon. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, it was straight out of it, and it
Who
was
directed
so annoying.
this episode?
Jack Bender.
Jack Bender. Oh,
Which
I
is
love
a-
his episodes.
I know.
Which Jack Bender for this episode was an alias for James Cameron. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But Jack Bender also.
Jack
he's-
Bender held the door.
Yeah,
last
he did.
week's
He
episode.
did a very
Yeah,
good job in the
he
last one. But
crushed it.
he did like a lot of like the main episodes of Lost,
Right.
like back in the heyday when Lost it's my favorite show. That's a different TV
I
series.
just felt
that we're
like
gonna
this
do.
episode was really good with their subtle character developments with Sam and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really made you love that relationship. Like the way he left and he was going to leave her to be in a better place.
I didn't
and then
I didn't think for 1 second that he was just going to leave her there. I was like,
But
oh,
see,
he's going to come back.
I
in.
believed it because I know how his old character was. Usually in real life, when you're away with certain people and you leave and you kind of become someone else, when you go back to those people, you kind of become that same person
Yeah,
again.
revert.
And I
we
felt like
saw that at the dinner table.
Right,
We
yeah.
saw that when
and
Sam
see that
was just
upset. He was just so just looking down.
he was
and
in
like,
his bubble.
Right,
Yeah, and he
and I
wouldn't
mean-
even say anything.
and it
I'm
made
like,
sense
oh
to
my
me.
God.
Defend
Because-
yourself because this,
Yeah.
like we know Sam.
Right,
now.
but that's what I liked is that's a real reaction.
It is,
It's
it
not
is.
something
It's honest.
forced to make him look cooler. It was a very honest moment, and then to have him leave, he's a genuinely selfless guy. So he loves this woman and her child, and he knows that if she were with his family, she's going to be safe and taken care of.
Yeah.
But then he has that moment that we love about Sam, where he's like, "Doesn't matter if she'll be safe here. She's like we belong together."
Yeah.
And I loved that because it gave me that moment of I understand. And then when he comes back in, you're like, "Yes, good job, Sam." Like I was rooting for him this whole episode.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I love.
Because we
Sam.
belong
He's
together.
great.
That's right.
What is that? That's a
We
song
belong
from.
together.
Somebody.
Is that Mariah Carey?
I think it's Mariah Carey. Yeah.
Mariah Carey. Don't know how I know that.
That explains why I don't know.
All right, moving on. This was a cool part, but at the same time, I knew it was going to happen. At the very beginning, because they picked up right after all the whole Hodor incident, and then you can see the zombies are like coming after
Yeah.
Bran, and what's that girl's name?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
She's just there.
She's
She's
there.
like
50 characters.
she's-
I know 2 names.
She's
for right
Bran's
now.
wheelchair now.
Yeah.
Right.
As a character,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about her.
Can barely hold
she's
the
a
door,
prop.
probably. Yeah.
She's a prop.
So anyway,
It's
Until
just
they
sad to the
develop her,
actress,
yeah.
but
But
it's
yeah,
true.
so we had all these zombies coming in, rushing after him, and then of course at the last second, somebody swooped, which we've already seen this season.
Yeah.
Brienne did it when Sansa and them were in
Yeah.
trouble. Like,
And I knew the second this character showed up, I was like, that's binging. That's
see,
Uncle
I
Bingen.
called it when they came back to him, like right before he took off the mask, and I've been doing that, and that frustrates the crap out of me because I did it last week too. Like as soon as Bran was gonna warg into,
They're not surprising you
yeah,
anymore.
Yeah, I was still get surprised, but I call it like about 4 seconds before it happens, and then I'm like, oh, that was Benji. I was like, so I love that. But when he first popped up, That was awesome. I was
Yeah.
like, who the heck is this guy?
The flaming Morning Star
Yeah,
base thing.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And how well he wielded it.
Yeah.
It was like,
He was
golly.
serious.
I believe that he's been surviving mostly on his own with
Yeah.
some help from the Three-Eyed Raven for like all this time now.
Yeah.
I believe that, okay,
I mean,
they've set Benjen up to be a pretty awesome character before
Yeah.
we ever saw him in action.
well, after we shot last week's episode, Todd, the owner, mentioned he had a thought about Bran being the Three-Eyed Raven, and like it's a time travel thing. And so what I do when I hear these theories is I watch it with that in mind to see, find the flaw
Yeah.
where it's disproven. And so I was like, okay, here comes the zombies. Let's see how he gets out of this, because it was an ex machina kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
he came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And so it
literally
was like,
nowhere.
all right, so how is he gonna pull this one off?
Mm-hmm.
And then of course it happened. So it's like, okay, he did make it out of another situation where he shouldn't have made it out of by a random occurrence. So it's like it's not disproven yet. And I like
Right.
getting those ideas because then you watch it with a different mindset.
See, the Three-Eyed Raven has been guiding Benjen, helping Benjen, so him like letting Benjen know that, hey, Bran has fled in this direction from, my tree.
Yeah.
Like, I believe
Right,
it.
but-
Like, I'm not worried about it. I really don't think Bran is a Three-Eyed Raven. I
But-
don't think that he's traveled back in time and, like...
There's another theory, though, that Bran is actually Bran the Builder.
Now that...
Yeah, I
could-
heard about that.
I could actually buy that theory.
Like the guy who built the wall, and I think he's the one that built all those like crazy stone, creatures above all those cities. Or not
Oh, yeah.
creatures, but those stone
Uh-huh.
monuments above the cities.
But, okay, this is where I see it, though.
Could they
I don't
be the
think
same
it's-
person?
I don't think it's the same person, Bran. I think it's that Bran the Builder was a Three-Eyed Raven. I think the Three-Eyed Raven is a mantle. It's not a consciousness, but it's a collection of memories and knowledge.
Right.
And Bran just inherited that consciousness. He collected it. He just inherited that collection of memories and that knowledge.
So you don't think he's gonna go back?
I don't think he. I don't know. I think he will go back in time to try. I could believe him causing the Mad King to go crazy.
Right.
Which, by the way, we saw this week in Bran's little visions when they were pulling him through, and he was
Yeah.
having all those flashes. Some
was
of it
in
were-
there?
Yeah,
the
he was saying.
the-
He said, "Burn them all,
Yeah.
burn them all."
We saw the
that
Mad
was
King.
him, that was the Mad King, like ordering
yeah.
the Knights Guard to like kill all the townspeople because Robert's rebellion, Robert Baratheon and the rebellion
Right.
were coming. And he's like, if I can't have it,
Nobody
nobody
can,
can.
yeah.
So he's gonna burn it all down. And so I was like, oh yes,
He's
like
seeing
he could.
this, so
he's
they're
seeing
connecting
this.
it.
Like this is gonna be important. At least I don't know if we're gonna see any more of the Mad King, but I like I saw him. I was like, oh man.
Well, something neat though with the theory of Bran being the old man is that it doesn't disprove that he's Bran the Builder. The idea could be he could be all of them. Because imagine this: if Bran was the Three-Eyed Raven and
Well,
he's
Bran
guiding
is no
his,
longer Bran that we know. Bran now is the
No,
Three-Eyed
right.
Raven, and
Yeah.
so.
But the idea is that if he does develop the ability to go back in time and influence
See, I don't-
things, he could be guiding his uncle like he's doing with like all these other people. So he's not physically telling him stuff, he's
Yeah.
doing it through mentalism, and then he's doing this because he knows his uncle will save himself. You know what I mean?
Now,
And he
this
knows
is-
where he'll be because he's been there already.
This is where
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he is the Three-Eyed Raven. I don't think he is physically Bran the Builder. I don't, because we have never seen evidence of a physical travel through time. He's able to
Yes, we
travel.
have.
We've seen him travel through time consciously, as
No.
consciousness has moved through time.
there was
He has not
when the
physically
White Walker
gone-
touched his arm and came back with that mark. That is a physical.
I don't think it's a physical. That is because he's still physically in underneath that tree, touching that roots.
Yes.
That is his consciousness. His consciousness was branded. It transferred to his physical body. That branding would manifest
That's a physical
physically.
mark. That's
but we
a
didn't.
literal physical mark. that-
He hasn't like gone back in time and like lived there because his physical body still remained in the current timeline, and
Yeah.
it still remained in that place. So that's
Okay.
his consciousness traveling.
We'll see. I mean, I
through
get
the
what you're
roots of the
saying.
weirwood and through that system.
Yeah,
Because
I-
every time he travels to a weirwood.
Yes.
And that's the weirwood network.
Right.
It's the tree network that he taps into, and trees maintain history in their cells. They grow and they grow and they grow and they continue to grow outward. But what their tree originally was, the bark that originally remained, we still have that core. It just builds on top of itself.
Okay. I mean, I
It's-
can get behind that, but I don't know. It's let's
I'm
move
not.
on.
I'm not cutting anything down right now. I'm leaving everything.
I do.
open.
I do also want to bring up. I was reading online, and some people much smarter, more advanced than me, or like looked at all the Brand's visions of the flashes, you know, frame by frame, and I recognized some of them. It was like stuff that we've seen before as an audience. And then of course we had, you know, the Mad King, and then like everyone pouring in like the wildfire and those big clay, that bright green liquid they had pouring in.
See, that was my problem. Is I couldn't go back and pause it because like I said, my viewing of it was clipped. So I was like, I'm not.
But there was also
there was
a short clip. It's probably just a few frames, but there is, like, we see young Ned Stark ask about his sister, and then like the next clip is supposedly Lyanna Stark in, like, you see her hand and you see it like covered like in a bed full of blood. Of course, how they said that, but there is a wound on the side of her body.
Like a baby was
indicating like a C-section. I mean, of course, I don't think anybody in the world doesn't believe that, you know,
right?
Jon Snow,
John is Targaryen.
Yeah.
John Targaryen.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
So hopefully we'll see that before, you know, by the end of the season.
And he's the link between the Stark and the Targaryen house.
Yeah.
Right.
The Starks being the wards of the north, and the Targaryens having been classically the rulers of the south. And now we have this link between those families.
Literal ice and fire,
Yeah.
which is what the books are called.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just makes so much sense. All right, but let's move on. Let's talk about. We had some people pop up that we haven't seen in a while. One that we saw, and one that they kept talking about. The one was Blackfish. We've heard a little bit about Blackfish. He's supposedly this great, you know, well-trained fighter. We actually found out that he is Catelyn's uncle.
They did a number of flashbacks to like where they've shown Blackfish in the past and where they've discussed him in the past at the beginning, at the recap portion of the episode.
Previously on.
You know, like, oh, by the way, Blackfish is a character you've seen before.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about him before.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah.
That was like 4 seasons ago.
Right.
So, and he was the guy who was lucky enough to have to go pee during
the Red
Wedding, which is compared in like George R. Martin standards, that is the luckiest character in the entire series, because that's probably saved his life, and now he's away, and he has just pissed off Walter Frey.
Walter Frey's on his way out.
Yeah.
Walter Frey's on his way out. They talked about how their army isn't that great.
Right.
How they're being beaten down by the men without banners.
Brothers Without
Banners, which is a reference to Lady Stoneheart.
Yes.
Who is a character that doesn't have a lot of relevance at all. She's a character from the books that they've removed from the show.
Go ahead and give everybody an explain.
Lady Stoneheart is Lady Stark.